guys, how you doing? I'm glad to be back today. Today might be a little bit shorter than yesterday, but I do have some time. So, first off, guys, I appreciate you guys that showed up for yesterday's stream. For yesterday, I decided to do a different one where it was completely color pencil drawing. And so today, I'm actually going to be finishing up, that drawing. And in case, for those of you that weren't here last time, this is the drawing I did Farmer Jim from The Day the Earth Blew Up, the new Looney Tunes that came out not too long ago. And so I had to do a whole completely color pencil drawing of him. And so today I'm going to be finishing that up. So far I've already kind of laid down all of my values, I've laid down my colors. Now it's a matter of kind of finishing everything up and kind of actually just kind of fine tuning everything. And really just add some extra color. Like for right here, I notice I don't have that much definition in the beard, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over, with some blue. I'm going to start the edge at the bottom. It's going to use a lot of pressure towards the edge. I'm just going to gradually move my way up. Also, when I'm doing that, I'm kind of glad to go underneath the his nose. That way, can I have that contrast heightened? Go right here, go right here. There we go. Let me fan it at the edges here. Also, let me get the edge with brown as well. And also, I'm just going to add some extra shadows here for his beard. I'm just going to go on top of where his hair is. I'm going to add some blue shadows here. Like I had mentioned yesterday, I'm trying not to use black too much because I feel like using blue I can get some nicer colors. Because as I mentioned, yesterday, when using black to shade, while you can do it, you gotta be very conscious that it will desaturate what colors you're using. So say if you're using a warm color like yellow or orange, it'll desaturate to make it very murky, almost greenish color. And unless that's what you're going for, it's not probably going to be ideal. It's preferable to use it for colors that are already kind of dark, like either a purple or blue, or in this case, a brown. But since I want to keep this thing fairly warm, I figured, since he's kind of behind a blue background, I still want to have to keep that coolness from the background, so I figured I'll just use blue for shading, instead. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go back over with the brown pencil that I have. So I'm just going to go over those marks that I made, just to really kind of blend everything out. And you can see as I'm going over it, with the over the brown with this blue, you see it's darkened, but it's not complete. Yeah, but rather than using a black, it kind of has a little bit of that visual flair to it. And sometimes sometimes it's always a lot more interesting when you use other colors aside from using black. Anyways, good to see you. Hey Shay, glad you dropped in. Oh, that's right. Tomorrow is I think it's the fall solstice, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. Cause I think up here it's finally starting to cool off a bit up here. Right? It was kind of taking, even if it was taking a while. Cause I tell you, we had periods where it would get cold, but then it was we would have days, where it'll get really warm. Like earlier this past week, in the day, the highs have been kind of in the 80s. Kind of mid 80s. But then it'll be days. But then at night it'll build down probably maybe the low 70s, sometimes the 60s. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward, for it to start cooling off. I love the fall season. Mainly, granted, I'm probably biased, since my birthday's in the fall season. In fact, it's actually this upcoming Friday. Yeah, but I just love this time because of course it looks pretty because, of course, it's fall. The leaves start changing color. It starts being cool. It's not hot. And something about it is feeling that cool, feeling that nice cool weather after a really hot summer. It just feels nice. It's just something that just really feels nice, to really, experience. So I'm just gonna go down. I'm just gonna go around. Let me kind of get the bottom towards here. Get some of that backlighting. Oh, so let me go underneath. Let me get underneath his neck here. Also, I'm gonna go in this lip of his hair here. And you guys have probably already seen so far, you probably saw this, you know, even from last stream too, is that I'm gradually kind of like adding more layers as I go down, just laying down with more and more color till I get that nice like rich look, you know, that I want. And luckily, like, since now that I've already laid down all of my colors, like, I'm not too concerned about, well, I guess I was like I was concerned, but I'm not too worried. I'm making sure, you know, my proportions and my colors look right, because see, I've already pretty much, you know, like, laid everything down now. So let me just kind of go over. Let me just kind of like go over with some extra brown. And really just kind of like blend out like some of these blue shadows that we had made early on. Just some blue shadows, not just kind of going over, making some straight lines to add extra strands of hair. Might erase a little bit later on here, a little bit more to just get to that backlighting here, because I'm not going too dark. I still want to make sure I get some of that backlighting here for the back highlights. Let me just add some more for his eyebrows. And it was weird because I know when I started off with this, I hadn't really decided like what pencil I was gonna use. I was kind of picking up these because these pencils right here, they were the closest ones I had on hand. So I figured I'll just go ahead and actually like use those. Now, one of these days, if I do another stream like this, or if I do more like color pencil stuff, you know, of course, that's if you guys want to see me do more stuff like this, where I just do stuff, you know, in color pencil. I might try to do others where I'm working with other color pencils, because I got Prismacolor. You know, I also have like Faber-Castell. Of course, I got Crayola. It's got a lot of, you know, like different brands, and honestly, that was a problem because like I got so many different pencils that I haven't really used all that much. I really haven't really used as of yet, and I need to, especially since some of them were actually kind of expensive, you know, to admit. Because, you know, I mentioned it, you know, yesterday's stream. Yeah, see, now I'm kind of going over the see, now I'm also kind of going over the eyelashes, kind of like adding some extra shadows here, just kind of make this area pop a bit here, because I figured here I'll have a little nice little highlight here, but it's gonna be very subtle. But I still want to have these shadows here for the the extra shadow, because I know even in the original screenshot that I'm kind of working from, and even from the movie, like in a lot of stills, they kind of gave like these hyper real. Even though he definitely has more of a cartoony like shape, they give him like this hyper realistic like shading, whereas like an illustration, which I like, because you know it almost kind of reminds me of the way they shade. It reminds me a lot of how Ren and Stimpy used to do, you know, with their kind of like gross out close-ups. Because while they would be gross, they have like a certain beauty to them in a way. And part of the reason they often look so good is that I think the name is I forgot the name of the artist. I think, let me look up real quick. I think his name was not Link Ray, that's a guitarist. I think it's Robert Ray. Let me look real quick. Give me just one moment. Let me see. I'm trying to remember what it was. William Ray, that's it. William Ray. So William Ray, the funny thing about him, like, he worked on Ren and Stimpy. He also did paintings for the Mad magazine as well. But the thing about with him though is that he was like a classically trained, classically taught like painter. He actually learned to paint in oils, and so even when he worked on things like Mad magazine and Ren and Stimpy, he still applied a lot of it, you know, with those sensibilities of his painting, you know, into that show. So that's why even a lot of when you see some of those like close up gross out shots, like there's a certain beauty to them. because they're done by an artist who really knew how to really draw those things. Yeah, William Ray. Sometimes he goes by. First example, something for sure he goes by Bill Ray. Other times he's gone by just Will. Yeah, and I think he had. Last I checked, he has an account on BlueSky. I know if I want, I think he had one on Twitter too. But yeah, his stuff is pretty good. So I wouldn't mind getting a chance to kind of like see some of his work in person. So let me see. Let me just go down the extra strands for his beard here. So let me just kind of go down. Let me just add some more strains here. And as I'm getting these strains, I'm trying to go with the shape, along the shape of of his beard. Just really kind of going along the shape. So really kind of give that dimension. And that's the way about hair. Hair is, no matter what medium I use, hair is always so tricky to draw. Because you gotta account for the shape of the actual hair itself. Then you gotta remember, it's on someone's cranium, it's on someone's head. So you gotta remember that even underneath that cranium, because I say his cranium probably goes up to around here. That's probably where the top of his cranium would be. But you gotta remember, when you put down hair, you gotta make sure it's resting on top of that cranium. Like, otherwise, you can kind of run the issue of making like he has like a very large head, or that they're wearing a wig, because like the large side of hair doesn't really correlate, with their cranium size. So let's see, what else can I add? I can go a little deeper on the shading here. Let me add some of these little creases around his little eyelids here. Let me get the bottom portion of his bottom eyelid. Let me just kind of add. So as you can see, as I'm going along, like when I start doing more shadows, like I'm being very subtle. Like say for example here, for this bottom eyelid, I'm kind of drawing a little contour line here, and I lightly start fanning out here, just using just a little bit of pressure. I don't want that too dark, but just dark enough to where it's noticeable. Because that's the thing, like once you've already laid down like the shadows that you want, like now it's a matter of like adding a lot more like subtle, like smaller changes. Because sometimes the smaller changes, those can really, make a huge difference. Let me just get underneath his nostril, underneath at the bottom of his nose where his nostrils normally are. Yeah, because, and this is just, if I get doing something like this, is something I figure I do something a little different, where I'll just do something completely, in colored pencil. Because even though I still regularly use it, it's been a while. I would say it's been a while, but I know nowadays I found myself not really using it as much if I want to do like full like color pieces. Like normally nowadays, if I'm gonna do something that's in full color, like I'll do it in markers, or I'll do a mixture. I'll do a mixture of both like colored pencil and marker. Like it's less often nowadays where I'll do something where it's completely, in colored pencil. Although the time, where when I did it, I used to do it like all the time. Like I did all my stuff, like just in colored pencil. And that's kind of the reason why I had got so many different brands. And you can see right here, as I'm going with the nose, you can see the nose bends of different angles. You see it kind of goes up, then out, then it goes back in an angle. then it goes back up at an angle. So you see how when the light's kind of hitting it, it's hitting the sides at different angles. So the light's not always gonna be the same. It's not gonna be uniform. So let me go down. Let me come shade right here. Let me add a little crease, for some of his neck muscles. Here too. And also, while we're at it, let me break out the blue again. Because since I'm gonna start hitting the hat next, I think I might have to kind of just darken it just a bit more, Alright, that looks good. That looks alright. Good. And a lot of the places where I found laser colored pencils, like some, I found like in bargain stores, in places like Ross. Other places, of course, I'll go to, places, like Michael's. Then I'll probably go to maybe Hobby Lobby. But then, like, far more, like, niche stuff, like, say, like, the Faber-Castell, like, even I can find at those places, I would go to, like, Salmon Flax, like, for those, because they have them cheaper there. And then other times, if I really want to get some I can't really find anywhere that's too expensive in the stores, I'll order them online. Like, say, for example, when I got the, those Caran d'Ache, like, luminance, pencils, I went and found a set online. It's a set that was affordable. And speaking of Caran d'Ache, I even had gotten a new set of pencils from Blick Art Materials. It's kind of pricey, but I've heard these are actually pretty good pencils. I've tried the Caran d'Ache like aquarelle pens. Now these, I'm probably gonna do a picture with these one day. These are actually like watercolor pencils too, so you can actually mix them with water. And I've actually tried them a few times. They actually seem to work really well. Because there was a period like for, and I want to get back into using those because there was a period for a while like before I really got on board with using alcohol-based markers that I did watercolor pencils because it was kind of like that thing that it's kind of like the medium that helped me bridge the gap between using just regular pencils and using markers. Just use something in between that was really good as far as blending like those two mediums. So let me kind of get his ears on that. So I'm gonna get his ears here. Get that nice shade. So now I'm actually gonna go ahead and start shading his hat a little bit more. So I'm gonna start to go pretty dark. I'm not gonna go too dark because I don't want it to be as dark as his hair, because since he has like a golden brown like yellowish straw hat, there's no need to make it too dark. But I do want to be dark enough to indicate that that this is part of the brim of his hat is completely in shadow. So I'm actually gonna go darker here, and as you see, I'm doing the same deal where I'm just kind of going darker towards the edge, and I'm just progressively fanning it out as I go further down. Plus, also I'm gonna use a lighter shade of brown that I have in just a moment too. Also gonna go a little darker here because I know his hat, since it's on this curve, it'll get a little darker. Let me just come out. Let me come out a little bit more. Alright, that looks good. So now I'm gonna go back over it, with some of this lighter browns. Probably use this burnt sienna that I currently have. Let me see if I got it. See, burnt sienna. Here we go. Perfect. Because anytime, also when I'm laying down colors, I usually like to work from Sometimes I'll start with the brighter colors first, then go dark. Other times I'll go in reverse. I'll start with the darker colors first, then kind of go light. But then there's other times I'll kind of do like kind of like I did for this one, where I'll start with the mid-tones first. Start with the mid-tones, then I'll lay down the darker colors, then I'll lay down the lighter ones. And since this is actually a lighter, more warmer shade of brown, I'm not as concerned about being as dark as this brown, because it's already a lighter brown, so I can only get it as dark as it can. So let me come out, let me go down, go all the way down here. I'm just gonna start fanning it out. In fact, let me add a little extra pressure here. I'm glad I was able to kind of work on this today, because even though I wanted to finish it yesterday, I knew I wouldn't be able to really stay, to finish the whole thing. And for a moment, I was considering, I figured maybe this thing's done, but I figured, no, there's definitely some more stuff I can add to it, because kind of like I mentioned yesterday, sometimes you gotta step away from it from at least a couple of minutes, or maybe a couple of hours. You'll step away from it and look at it with fresh eyes. That way, all the things that you want to do to it and things that you'll need to do for it, they're a lot more obvious. They stick out a lot more now, because now you've had a chance to let your eyes rest. You gave them a chance to kind of like look away from something else for a brief moment and do something else. So of course, you come back. Now you come back with a fresh set of eyes, and you know exactly what to do. Go a little heavier here. Let me go up here. There we go. I'm gonna go further out. I'm gonna use some of this tan here. Go out here, here. And since I'm off today, even though I'm off that, I still have a few things planned I want to take care of. I think I take care of errands, things that's pretty much it. So I want to try to make sure spend as much time as I can. Of course, I don't see myself probably taking as long for today's stream with this one as I am with the other one, since most of the hard work I did for this one I did yesterday. And for those of you who probably weren't here for yesterday's stream, the other part of the reason I wanted to do this is that I wanted to kind of make something to bring when I go to Chattanooga Comic-Con this upcoming weekend. Is that Fred Tatasciore, I think it's Fred Tatasciore, I think that's how his last name is pronounced. He's gonna be at the convention. Tatasciore, he actually voiced Farmer Jim in the movie. So I'm thinking about probably making a copy, and having bring that to him so he can actually autograph it. There's a few people I'm actually definitely planning on seeing, to actually get autographs. He's one of them, Fred Tatasciore. The Pinky the Brain one that I shared on here a while back, I'm gonna have Marsh do that. There's a few other ones, too, that I'm thinking of actually meeting in, because I know Patricia Patz, who did a Peppermint Patty. I met her last year when I got a chance to see Scott Inez, Scott Inez, who did Scooby-Doo. I met her last year, but I didn't get a chance to get an autograph. So I'll get a chance to meet her again this year. And also another one, what's his name? Can't remember. What is it? I'm drawing a blank. What is it? It's not Jack Black, but he's one of the guys that also did Bowser from the Mario games. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. Yeah, Kenny James, that's it. Because I know he did Bowser in a lot of the games. In fact, actually, I'm looking it up right now. Quite a few people who are known to do who are voice actors for a lot of the Mario games, they're there too. Because I think he's there. Let me see who else. Samantha Kelly, who does Princess Peach, she's there. Grant Kirkhope, who does Donkey Kong and Banjo-Kazooie, he's gonna be there too. Yeah, in fact, they got a lot of really good folks that are gonna be there. So I'm definitely looking forward for that. And also while I'm at it, let me go and actually kind of shade in, the top of his head for where his hat. And I don't have to. I'm also going to use some of this burnt sienna to kind of shade in the areas around his neck down at the bottom here. Also, I'm going to kind of fan things out. Gonna kind of lightly blend things a bit more here, with this burnt sienna for the beard. Just kind of warm things up. Those who remember yesterday, I think what I did for here, that instead of using a lot of orange like I did for his skin, I just used just a light amount of yellow. Just a very light amount. Let me kind of go down here, hit an edge here, perfect. Gotta use more of the sienna. Yeah, and I was going around good place if possible, because I know, and normally like whenever I color things in, usually I like to get one color and just use it anywhere where I think it's applicable. Like say if I want to use blue, I want to use all the areas where I think I need blue. If I need brown, I'll use all the areas where I need brown. And that's how I like to approach things whenever if I'm drawing like a certain subject. Because I know some people like to kind of work on a certain spot. Like say for example they're doing a project, they'll probably maybe start the eye and go out from there, which is fine. But I like to make sure, if I'm drawing stuff, especially like a portrait, I want to make sure all the colors are all working together with a certain type of harmony in a way. I think while I'm at, let me add a little bit more strands. Alright, this looks pretty good. That's looking alright. That's looking alright too. I think what I'll do now I'm gonna go back over, with this golden yellow. Let me just kind of go down here going along his neck here. I'm also gonna go along, his cheeks. Even though I have a peach color, I normally like to use orange, because a light orange is a very light orange. Orange mixed with white will give you like a nice peach color. Plus, I figured using a peach that'll be good to use when I start blending everything together. And you can see, once I use this color, I'm just going around using it everywhere where it's applicable. Just kind of being very light, just being very deliberate. And also, as you can see, since I'm... In fact, let me darken it just a bit more. Because since this area is a little bit further away from the light, his highlight shouldn't be as strong as, say, this one. So I'm just going to go over, with, in fact, if I have some gray on hand, I'm probably going to go over that too. Just to make sure, everything here looks a lot more even. Let me just go over his ear here. Now, also while I'm at it, since I'm gonna use like a golden yellow, let me just kind of use that to kind of blend out the brown I used for the bottom of his hat. just gonna go up, and I'm just blending out all the using the kind of, use this like mid-tone orange kind of blend out all the brown that I laid down. Excuse me. Okay, looks good. Let me see something for a brief moment. Let me just kind of go on the edge. Let me just light it just a bit more. Alright, good. Let me see some. Give me just one moment, guys. Alright, there we go. So now, just to kind of warm everything back up, let's kind of add our yellow. So I'm just going to go over our top of our yellow, go on the brim of his hat. Since I've laid the yellow, I'm just going to go pretty hard with it. So I'm just going to go pretty heavy with the yellow this time. Because since I've already kind of added all the colors I need now I'm going to add and kind of blend everything out too. So I'm kind of doing a thing kind of called burnishing in a way too. In burnishing, now you're pretty much kind of like smoothing everything out. You're kind of like really pressing everything into the paper. I think I'll go, since it's a little warmer, since it's not as dark here, I'll go a little heavier with the yellow here. Go a little heavier here. Now go around the edge here. I'm just gonna add a little bits of yellow here for around his hair. A little bit more here for his flesh. So I'm gonna, since he's being illuminated by sunlight, you can use a little bit of yellow to really kind of like add that yellowish tint to it, to really add a little bit of warmth. That warm sun that's beating down on him. I think I'll use a little bit down here too. And also what I'll do is that since I've done that, since this is already with brown, I don't mind going a little darker with the blue. Add a little bit of, use some more of this blue here too. Add the bottom as well. You know, just some of that backline from the blue sky that's behind him. And while I'm at it, let me go ahead and actually, let me go kind of like tidy up some of the our blue background a bit. And as I mentioned from last stream, whenever I color, I usually like to do it on the side rather than from the tip. In fact, I could probably show you right here. right here in case I didn't show it last time. So if you do it from the top, while you can do it, but you see how you get really, really thin lines. You know, while that's fine, it can make coloring large areas a lot more tedious versus if you do it from the side, you know, like this. See, now you're covering a lot more space. Now you have to keep covering a lot more ground. And I think it's easier to do a lot more shading because it's on the edge rather than on the tip. And you'll see doing the edge, you're less likely to run your nub down real quick. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing that. In fact, let me go and kind of erase that so I can go over that a little later on. But I just want you guys to get a chance to kind of see that in case if I forgot to do it last time. So I'm just gonna go over, you know, it's kind of really kind of go at an angle, just go on the side. Just really give a nice, good, consistent layer. Go along. We go along his hat. I'm gonna go a little darker once I go along the yellow. Since that's one of the brightest part of the hat here, I figure I'll go a little darker just to make it pop a little more. I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna scan this thing, guys. Well, I have an idea what to do, but think about it, this is just a really big piece of paper too, because it's on like 11 by 4, so this is a pretty big sheets of paper. So it's paper that's not gonna really gonna fully be able to sit inside the scanner. I think my scanner is at 9.2, no 9.12. It's really more geared for more standard like printing paper. So a lot of times what I have to do is whenever I'm using it for like large sheets of paper, usually I have to do like maybe like 3 different scans. And basically for each scan, I kind of rearrange the picture so that way I can just re-edit those pictures so I can have like one continuous image that has everything all together. Let me go a little darker. Maybe a little darker on his hat. Because the other thing is, whenever you scan things, that's one thing you gotta keep in mind. If you're using light blue, if you're drawing with light blue, dude, make sure you're very conscious of how much you actually lay down, because light blue is one of those colors that doesn't really show up too well on when it's being scanned in. In fact, that's part of the reason a lot of times with comic book artists, whenever they draw do their pencil work, they often won't use regular graphite pencil. They'll actually use, you know, a light blue pencil, because those don't show up as much when you scan them in. So actually sometimes what they'll do is they'll probably just draw out their pencil work in a light blue pencil, then they'll go over, you know, with an ink pen. That way when they actually scan it in, the only thing they'll show up is just, you know, like their ink work and not their pencil work. Let me just go out, let me go around. I'm just kind of going on the edge here. Let me just kind of darken up a bit so I might have to I'll have to hit that again. I don't like how it's turning out. Might have made a little. Might have made that a little too dark. Let me see. How am I gonna do that one? Let me see. So I think what I'll go and do here. Well, one thing for certain. I'll go down. Let's go down a little bit darker on the brim of his hat. I'm just gonna make this whole thing just a bit darker, just a bit darker. Because even though he is being he's being slightly back, part of his hat is being slightly backlit by the blue sky around him. You don't want it to be as blue as the background. And sometimes you can, but you gotta do it in very like specific and certain spots. Okay, there we go. That looks a little bit better. So I'm just gonna go over that, and once I've done that, now I'm just kind of go in the middle here, just kind of like really kind of even everything out. Okay, now it actually looks a lot. Now everything just looks a lot more uniform. In fact, let me use that blue again here to kind of like for that extra contrast. Cause it looks like the blue and brown kind of separates here in the middle. And I don't like how that's turning out. And oh yeah, I don't think once you've finished using color, you're officially done with it, because you might have to come back and hit it again at a certain point. In fact, while I'm at it, I'm gonna use it to go on hit the eyebrows again. Hit the top here. Let me hit the Let me hit the top, and this curl of hair here too. Just kind of darken that up. Let me add this little curl here. There we go. Alright, cool. Action while I'm at, let me add a little bit here too. Now let me go back over it again. In fact, I might have to sharpen this again pretty soon. Let me add some extra strands here. Let me add some extra strands. Okay, yeah, it looks much better. Okay, I like that. In fact, let me go a little bit deeper on the blue here too. See, that's the thing. As soon as you think you're done with one area, you find that you're not. So you just gotta add. Sometimes you find yourself adding more to it until you get to where you want it to be. Just go back over it again. Just actually blend it out, and now let me darken a bit here in this little corner. Yeah, in fact, let me sharpen this real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, there we go. Also, while I'm at, let me go ahead and kind of color in his lip already, because I realized I hadn't colored his lips at all. Oh my god. So now they almost look kind of, so I'm gonna look kind of chapped. So let's add some color back to them. So I had a scarlet like vermilion that I was using. Yeah, here we go. So I'm just gonna go over his lips. I'm not gonna use too much. Wait, is that the one I had? Oh, never mind. It is the one I had. Because also, I think I have so many colors that tend to kind of look very similar to one another. And that's why it gets vermilion. Vermilion is kind of like a red orange. So it's a red, but it's a very warm red. So I'm just gonna lightly kind of go over it, just being very light. But also I wanted it to have a little backline, so I'm just gonna go on the edge. I'm not complete at the edge of the lip. I still want this to kind of pop against, you know, the bottom, you know, of his beard here. Do that here. I'm also add a little bit of red here, you know, bring the brim of his nose, and a little bit around the cheeks. Like I mentioned yesterday, you know that sometimes if you're drawing skin, especially like peachy skin like this, it does have to use a little bit of red around like the nose and cheeks, because of course, you know, on your face, that's where a lot of the blood kind of rushes to. So like say for example, when you get really cold, when you do get really cold, a lot of times, you know, like your nose, your cheeks, and, you know, your ears, they'll start turning red. There's a lot of blood in those ears. But you don't want to add too much, or else it'll look like you're blushing or you're bleeding. You don't want that. Alright, so let me see. What else can I use? Oh yeah, the peach. So I do have regular peach that I actually have on hand. And so I'm mainly going to be using this to just kind of like really burnish out our color. Just kind of smooth everything out. I could use a white. And I am still probably going to use white in a little while anyway. But I think white would tend to brighten the colors. And I really don't want to brighten everything here just yet. Base, let me use it to kind of burnish and just kind of blend everything out. And since I'm pretty much satisfied with a lot of colors I got laid out, I don't mind smoothing all of them out now. Because now doing it this way, now all the colors are going to start getting progressively more smoothed out. Not going to do too much right here, since I think here I'm probably going to actually use white. Definitely I'm going to use it here though. I think I'll use some of it here, you know, for his beard. You know, I'll use that to go over his lips here too. So you can see, you know, this is looking pretty. Yeah, this is pretty little different from how we left off earlier yesterday. And this is pretty different from how we started off in our stream just now. So I am going to use white. So the white, what I'm going to do is kind of start. Normally what I do when I shade, you know, using white, I usually start in the brightest area. And I'll gradually like work my way out when I start like really blending things out. And this white, it's kind of fair. Yeah, it's not too strong because one thing you'll find out about with different colored pencils, some whites are a little stronger because some are really thick, some are really thin. So and And they sort of person, like, if it's a white that's kind of very thin when it lays down, it may not be great for highlights, but it'll be really good, you know, if you really want to kind of like burnish and really kind of smooth out your blending. But if you got one that's really thick and you leave a nice white, it's really good if you add them highlight. Because I know Prismacolor on white pencils, those are really good. Caran d'Ache's white pencils, those are really good. Especially doing against black paper. In fact, that's a big thing you want to do, is if you want to test to get out, you know, how opaque is, you know, is your white pencil. Test them against black paper and see how bright they are against that black paper. I think I'll use white to kind of go over against the hair. I'm just gonna lightly go over the back of the hair here too. Just being very deliberate. Just to kind of get some of that backlighting. I'm just trying to think what else I can add here, because now I'm just kind of like going around just kind of finding more places where I could do more, because everything here is looking pretty much good already, because like the colors look great, watercolors are laid down. I think I will get a little bit of his shirt here. I think I will do that. So I think what I'll do, I think maybe I can get a little bit of his overalls. In fact, I think what I will do, where's the I think I'm trying to get part of his other shoulder here. And since this part's in shadow, I think what I will do is let me start off really just kind of shading this whole thing in brown. So I'm just gonna be very light, just shade the whole thing in brown. I do have a gray, but I don't want to really use that just yet. And I figure here I'm actually kind of shading around his little collar. Maybe shading around the little extra collar of his collar here as it comes down. I think I have the strap. I think I have it where it goes down to where the edge of his collar is. So I'm have it come down here. I'm gonna come out. I'm gonna fan this out at the bottom. Just fan out. Just make your edge, and just lightly fan out. And since this is not, since this is not the main focal point, probably not gonna do as much as far as shading wise here. Let me just add a little bit here as I go further out. Cool. So now I think I'm gonna do is go back over, with the blue again. Except this time I kind of go over where his overall straps are. So I think I'll go here. And usually I'm kind of do like I normally do. I'm just kind of go over it very lightly. Just in blue, since that's the main base color this time. And also, I figure in doing this way, this will kind of highlight some of the backline I got in from this beard here. So I'm gonna go hard on the edge here as I go a little further out. And I'm going hard here anyway, since this part of his cover is in shadow, whereas this is not, so it's a little lighter. Let me kind of go on the edge. Let me just go on the edge, kind of give a bit of dimension. I'm gonna do the same thing here as I go up. I'm gonna kind of go down the middle here to kind of indicate a fold. So let's go a little darker towards the center. Well, at least closer to the left side. Because I think I will use some brown to kind of just darken it just a bit more. Let me see something. Hang on. Let me bring this up so you guys can see a little bit more. I didn't realize it was out of focus. I apologize. Alright, so let me just darken it just a bit more here, do it more here too. Like I said, like since this is not the focal point, I'm not planning on spending too much time, but I want to spend just enough. I think everything else around here, in fact, what I think I'll do, let me add a little blue here too, because everything else here is looking alright. Let me add here, let me go up. Okay, so I think what I will do, I think I will go over a little bit of gray. Let me see. Perfect, here we go. I think for the gray, I'm gonna use kind of a mixture of this brown, this gray, and I have some yellow too, because I still want to keep that on warmness. That warmness of the sunlight down on him. I figured using straight gray, you know, like, it will be fine, but I figured visually it will look kind of boring. So let me kind of go on the edge of his shirt here. So he's on the edge. I'm just going to fan that out. Let me get on the crease of his collar here. Let me just kind of go out. Let me go out for this fan here too. Let me shape part of it, because since there's in shadow, I am going to use a lot more gray here. In fact, I'm going to go heavy on the gray here since this part of his color is completely in shadow. I might use later in other pairs too, because you know, one thing you'll find out is that sometimes even using something a neutral color like gray, that can be work really well if you're mixing colors together. Especially, you know, if you want to kind of dull certain colors. Like usually if you want to use like colors but you don't want to be too bright, it helps you mix them either with a gray or just mix them with, you know, a complementary color. Say for example, you got red, you'll mix a little bit of green with it. Not too much, you know, also too much or else you'll get an actual gray. But just like if you want to dull the colors down a bit. In fact, let me go on the edge here. Just really kind of get that nice get that contrast going. Then I'll start gradually going my way out. Let me just darken this some more. Darken it here, darken it there. I think I'll use some of this gray here too. Just kind of darken it just a bit. So I'm just going to use some of the gray here, just in other parts too. Don't really have to, but just enough in areas where I figure it could use a little bit of, you know, like, a little extra color, just kind of fill things in. Yeah, so now I'm just doing in areas, you know, as needed. Going with mustache. Good, good, good. All right, cool. Oh, I almost forgot. Remember, I could have used it on his eyes. Since his eye is further away from the light, his eye's gonna be in shadow. You don't need a lot. You just need just enough. There we go. Now I'm going to go back over again, just go back over some of the lines that we made. I'm going to go back over with that brown. And first, I probably will end up using some black further down the line, but I'm not going to use too much. I'm going to use just enough. Just add some in the middle here, add it here. Alright, that looks good. Now also I'm just gonna use a little bit of that yellow. Being very light, just being very light and deliberate. Because I want to be more like an off-white in a way, really. Alright, so I am just going to use a little black, because I'm just going to use a little bit. Just not too much. Let me just kind of bring this down. Here, do it here. spots. Let me go a little darker around his eyeballs. I'll use it just a little bit here to kind of go on the edge of his collar. Just being very, because even though I'm using some here, I'm not trying to use too much. It's really more of a purple, but I figured it'll be nice to kind of darken it just a bit more here. Yeah, like I said, even if I'm using black or I just use a mixture like blues, browns, and purples to do a lot of my shading. Where's that other brown that I had? Where did it go? Where'd it go? Here it is. Perfect. Just be very light. Let me just kind of go over here. Let me just kind of really kind of like darken shadows for the strap here too. And also I'm going to do the same for this side. I'm sorry if I'm kind of rambling a bit too much. Yes, it's now that I'm done, I'm just kind of like really just kind of stopping to look and see like what areas I can do more with, what areas I can touch up. Go back again with the backing, just kind of go along the edge, just go on the side, go down the strap, because I think we'll be done with this pretty soon. Oh yeah. I know I said that a few minutes ago, but I think I mean it for real this time. Go back, what happened to that gray that I had? that. Use that for part of strap here too. There we go. And guys, I believe that is it for our drawing of Old Farmer Jim. So guys, I hope you all really enjoyed the stream. I know it's been a while since I did, you know, like a two-part stream like this. It's been a while since I've done one. But I'm glad, you know, I had the opportunity, you know, to really really kind of do something like this. Because, of course, you know, like, it's not often I get a chance to stream more than once, you know, on here, like, per week. You know, I still want to try to make some adjustments to my schedule so that way I have more time, you know, to really, you know, like, do that. But until then, guys, like, I hope to see you guys here on the same time next week on a Saturday or any other day, depending on how my schedule is. Actually, you know, I forgot, because, you know, next week, you know, I'll be out of town. I'll be out of town with the Comic-Con thing. So it'll be week after the next, and when I come back, I'll be doing like another stream for this. So until then, guys, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to see you all again next time.